Well, welcome everybody. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me okay. This is Mark Canavan. I'm the Marketing and Vendor Relations Manager for Graphic Art Mart, and I wanted to welcome everybody to our heat transfer webinar today in conjunction with Chemica. On the line with me, I've also got Nicholas Becherel, who's the Sales Director for Chemica for Asia Pacific. And so Nicholas is going to run through the webinar today and give us some tips and tricks around making heat transfer easy and simple. So, Nicholas, I might just hand over to you. Hopefully everyone can hear okay, and we can get underway.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Welcome, everybody. So I'm Nicolas Becherel from Chemica, and it's a pleasure to have you attending our webinar today. Big thank you. It's a very specific time for everyone with the COVID around, difficult to travel. So we believe this kind of event with webinar is an interesting way to bring some information about our products to you guys in Australia. It's the first time for me doing this kind of webinar, so please take it easy on me, but we'll try to make it interesting for you, and we'll try to spend like 1 hour with some part also where you will be able to ask some questions. So basically, today's agenda is first introduction. I'm going to talk a little bit about Chemica, then who I am, tell you a little bit more about Graphic Art Mart and Chemica in Australia. And after that, I'm going to give you a kind of share with you more information about Chemica range of heat transfer vinyls. And after that, we will move to a training part, including some tips and tricks and some FAQs. So the idea is to have 45 minutes presentation, about 45 minutes. And after that, hopefully some interaction, and hopefully we can answer some of your questions. So, introduction. So first of all, about Chemica. So Chemica, we are a French manufacturer of heat transfer vinyl since 1983. The factory is in France, south part of France, close to Lyon. And we are one of the industry leader, and we have very high quality standard. Most of our solutions, for example, are Ecotex standards 100 certified. We are one of the key players in the heat transfer vinyl business, and through the years we have brought to the market a lot of different new products and innovations. It started in 1995 with the world's thinnest PU, the Hot Mark, very famous product from Chemica, Hot Mark. And through the year 2000, we have brought to the market different solutions. 2006 Fashion Flex, 2007 we brought on the market some 3D flex with some carbon effect to it. We have also a high density with 2 colors in 1 flex. And for the past few years, we've been working on some specific new range called Revolution, and that's going to be one of the main focus today. So I'm going to share more information to you about the Revolution range and why it's the right product at the right time. And also, Chemica is, as I mentioned, a French manufacturer of heat transfer vinyl, but we have a worldwide business. We have offices in the US and in Asia, and we have warehouses both in the US and in Asia. So this is about Chemica. So who am I to talk to you today? Why am I talking to you today? I am Nicolas Becherel, and I am the Sales Director of Chemica HK. So as I just mentioned, Chemica is having a structure in Asia, and we are responsible for the Asia Pacific region. It means basically we are taking care of the business from Pakistan to South Korea down to New Zealand, Australia. It's interesting for me to mention this because it means also we have to deal with different kind of customers, and we get experience from the different field. We are talking to factories in Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. We are talking to a printing shop, New Zealand, Australia, and we also have some knowledge about some more craft-oriented customers. So we know a little bit of the different businesses related to the heat transfer vinyl. So that's why I'm talking to you today. And now a little bit more about Chemica and Graphic Art Mart. So Graphic Art Mart is Chemica's certified distributor in Australia. And by saying this, I need to insist on the fact that it means you get from Graphic Art Mart the best possible support. Graphic Art Mart is being trained from ourselves regularly. They can offer all the possible technical support. The staff is trained, and of course they have stock and easy access to Chemica range. So basically the idea is it's the easiest way for you to get Chemica's product in Australia in the best possible way. Moreover, Graphic Art Mart is available throughout Australia with different offices, and it means they are close to you guys no matter where you are in Australia. And finally, I think very important to understand is Graphic Art Mart is selling the whole solution. They are selling a lot of equipment and medias, so they get to know the whole business, and they can help you from the very beginning till the end on how to make your t-shirt business run. So that was the first few introductions to Chemica, myself, and to the relation between Chemica and Graphic Art Mart. After that, I'd like to go a bit more into Chemica's range, to tell you more about Chemica's product. And it starts, of course, by saying that Chemica is having the whole package, and it means we have a cut-only range and we have a printable range. So the cut-only range is, of course, for all kinds of plotters. It can be a craft plotter, but it can be an industrial plotter. This is all working fine with most of our solutions. And the cut-only material means you get a roll, it has a color, and you cut your design into the color. The printable range means you have a printer, a solvent, eco-solvent printer, but not only. And you can print basically any design you want. It's up to a full color print, and you can personalize your shirt. So that's the two main categories in Chemica's range. And interesting to notice is for both categories, you get all different kind of finishes and all different kinds of products. It can be metallic, glitters. I'm going to share more information about the specials later on, but as I just mentioned before, Chemica is having one of the biggest or largest range on the market. And this is now about the traditional Chemica's products. So basically the cut-only color references you can purchase from Graphic Art Mart. And I will start with the first reference, which is a traditional Chemica product, the one I mentioned before by saying it was first produced 1995. I'm talking about the Hot Mark. Hot Mark is the thinnest PU on the market. And by saying so, it's only 50 microns. What I mean is it just brings a great hand feel. When you will apply it on the garment, basically, you mostly don't feel it. It might be sometimes some issues you face with some other suppliers' heat transfer vinyls. They are a little bit thicker and you can get a kind of plastic bag effect. With Hot Mark, you won't get this kind of feeling because of the thinness of the product. So it's the thinnest product on the market, only 50 microns. Moreover, the Hot Mark is available in 46 colors. It cut very nice and you can get some very fine details. If you just look at the picture I included in my presentation, that's really something you can go into very detailed and intricate designs. So that was the traditional PU we had for years, Hot Mark, many colors and a great hand feel. And for the last few years now, we have been working on a range we call Revolution. The reason is the garments are getting more and more technical, heat sensitive also, and we've been developing solutions that can work with all kinds of fabrics at once. So it's the latest development. It's available in Hot Mark Revolution, as you can see on the right part of the presentation. And the Hot Mark Revolution is a kind of follower of the traditional Hot Mark. It shares the same PU, so the color is the same. Same as the Hot Mark, It's a very thin product, can cut very nice and intricate designs, and it's available in 41 colors now, with more colors certainly coming. And Quick Flex Revolution, the main difference between Quick Flex Revolution and Hard Mark Revolution will be in the finish. The Quick Flex Revolution has a real matte finish. So this is a kind of a main difference between the two solutions. But basically, I think one of the main things to remember about Chemica products is just the great hand feel it provides with thin PU available. And there's one more thing I need to mention for the Hard Mark Revolution, and actually also for the Quick Flex Revolution. Those new developments in the range of Chemica have won some awards in the US, SGIA award, 2018 for the Hard Mark Revolution, 2019 for the Quick Flex Revolution, best product of the year. So that's definitely a product you should consider purchasing. There's going to be more a focus on this solution later on. So let me jump to the next page. Okay, now we are. So the previous page was about the traditional range, PU cut only, and the next thing is the traditional range for the printable material. Basically, Graphic Mart is promoting three main solutions in Australia. It's the traditional hot mark print, another product called Easy Print, and finally the hot mark print revolution. So hot mark print in the printable range is a little bit like the hot mark, a very good hand feel. Very useful when you're doing some kind of fashion t-shirts, trying to get a very nice design on the shirt. You won't get the plastic bag effect related to some heat transfer vinyl. So this is a very interesting product to work with for all this kind of fashion application. We have the Easy Print, which is a great heat transfer vinyl to work with, especially when working with logos. You can even use this product without application tape, which will make the handling of the product even more easier. It's a little bit thicker material, but it's a great product for all robust logos you need, or small artworks you will print on a chest or something like this, eventually for sports application. And the last product I mentioned is the same idea as just before. We have the traditional hot mark print, and it has been, or it's now available also in the Revolution version, which means universal product, stretch, quick and low temp. As I mentioned before, we're gonna have a focus on the Revolution range before, but that's basically the three main printable material you can get from Graphic Mart in Australia. There's one thing interesting maybe to mention here is our products are not only to be used with solvent or eco-solvent printers. We have solutions also working with latex inks, and we are now conducting some testings for checking the compatibility with the UV inks. So the first result we got are quite positive also about the UV inks. Still have, of course, to confirm this as soon as the R&D is done, but it's not only for solvent, eco-solvent printer. So it's working with solvent and eco-solvent printer, but also latex ink. Just have to mention or to ask a Graphic Mart team which reference exactly you have to use in this case. So this is for the traditional printable range of Chemica. And after that, that's something you might have encountered, facing some issues with this kind of t-shirts. We have a sublimation ink resistant range, so we called it SIR. It's available also in the cut only range, possible also to have some solution for the printable material. We have the hot mark SIR, we have the hot mark print SIR and Easy Print SIR. Those solutions are great if you are facing some problem with ink migration. If you get the colors going through or bleeding through your vinyl once applied on the garment. Interesting to notice the hot mark SIR is available in 6 different colors. And it has a very high washability, up to 60 grads, so definitely interesting for all this kind of sports application. You're going to use it 150 degrees for 20 seconds. and the product is about 100 microns thick. So that's the kind of SIR solution you need, especially when working with sublimation polyester. And now it's a little bit more about Chemica specific solutions. There's one thing I need to mention is as soon as you get a plotter and a heat press, there's really a lot of things that can be done. It's not only about printing white or black transfer onto your garment. There's basically no limit to what you can do. All kind of specific effects or finish are possible using heat transfer vinyl. You just have to consider the right solution. And these are just some examples of what you can find by Chemica. We have, of course, the flock finish available in 13 different colors. We also have something very, very popular in the US. It's the glitters. You can see one example here with a gold glitter. And it's interesting for you to notice we have one of the biggest range on the market with 50 plus references available. So this is really definitely a very successful solution on some specific market, might be in Australia, but in the US, for example, it's one of our best seller. We also have some metallic kind of heat transfer vinyl with 9 different colors available, from gold to silver to a kind of copper finish. We also have something called carbon, so that's the next picture you see. This is very specific to Chemica. And another product which is only available by Chemica is a high density 2-in-1 heat transfer vinyl. So you see this DuoFlex, which is the white transfer with a red outline. This is a just one-time press product, and you get this high density, so a little bit relief, and you get 2 colors in one. The working process is not much longer as a traditional HTV because it's only one-time press. And what is interesting for you to know is you got a plotter, you got a heat press. You can use different kind of heat transfer vinyl to make all kind of combinations and finishes. Basically, working with heat transfer vinyl is one of the easy way to print on t-shirts, because the main process, what we're going to introduce later on with the training, is basically the same for all kind of solutions. The temperature might change or the timing, but in terms of process, it's basically the same. Now, I'd like to move to a focus on the Revolution range. Basically, for 2-3 years now, Chemica, 3 years, we've been launching a new range of product called Revolution, and we believe it's really time for the revolution because it brings a lot of new advantages to it. That's one of our main focus now and one of our big success. It's very interesting because it brings many interesting features in just one solution. And this is maybe the first point. It's a universal product. It means it can be used on all kinds of different fabrics. Interesting for you is that you won't have to change heat transfer vinyls depending on what kind of fabric you are working with. It can be a cotton, can be polyester, and you can also work with nylon. It means you have to deal with less stock and you avoid getting confused with different products, different references, working with different settings. It's just one product for basically doing everything. So that's the one thing why we first developed, or one of the first reason why we developed the Revolution, but it has also a lot more advantages to it. As I said before, Chemica started in 1995 producing the hot mark, traditional hot mark, and hot mark Revolution is basically as thin as the traditional hot mark. So it's one of the thinnest HTV on the market. Why I'm mentioning this, it's very important because it means a great hand feel. One feature of the hot mark of the Revolution family is also that it's a very stretch material. So you can use it on some specific fabrics like yoga pants or all these kind of a little bit elastic fabrics. One more interesting feature, then that's something you can basically always expect from Chemica. It's durable. What I mentioned here is it will outlast the life of your garment. We have very high production standard, and most of our solutions can wash very nice and very long. If you apply your flex correctly following the instructions, you can make sure your transfer will last long, very long. Basically, your t-shirt will get damaged before the transfer on it. Some more interesting features about the Hot Mart Revolution is it's a low temp solution. It means you can go down to 120 degrees. I remember being on an exhibition last year with Graphic Art Mart in Australia, and it was very interesting because when I was mentioning this point about the low temp application, most customers understood completely what I was saying because they were facing some issues with some technical fabrics now, and they were looking for a way to reduce the temperature. Basically, the less temperature you use, the best it is in most cases. So here you can go down to 120 degrees to apply your transfer on the fabric. 120 degrees only for 20 seconds. And there's another thing interesting about the Hot Mart Revolution or the Revolution family is you can apply it quick. Let's imagine you have a lot of productions to do and it's the whole same designs and you want to do it as fast as possible. You can apply the Hot Mart Revolution just within 5 seconds. So instead of the traditional 20 seconds, 5 seconds press will be enough to have your transfer done on the fabric. So this is really a very interesting feature. You can do it all low temp or you can do it quick. And finally, one of the last big points for the Hot Mart or for the Revolution family is it's a hot or cold peel. I personally really love the hot peel. The reason is simply because with a cold peel you sometimes get a kind of difficulties in peeling from the t-shirt. Your transfer, it kind of scratch a little bit to your fabric. And by using the Revolution and the hot peel more specifically, you really can get a very nice and easy peeling of the flex from your t-shirt. So those are all the advantages of using the Revolution family. Hot Mart Revolution is available in 41 colors. So a very big choice of color, from metallic or gold colors to traditional white, black colors. We have the Revolution also available for the printable material. So for your full color designs, we also have a Revolution version of it. It means also low temp or quick application, also stretchy and also thin. So those are all the advantages related to the Revolution, to the new family we are now promoting in Australia, together with Graphic Art Mart. I mentioned, you have it on the presentation, we have won different awards for the Revolution family with an award for the Hot Mart Revolution Best Cut-Only Product and for the Hot Mart Print Revolution with Best Printable Material of the Year in the US. So this is definitely a product you should be considering testing that can help you solve some issues you might face when working with heat transfer vinyl. So this is one of our main focus in 2020 and 2021, and I'm sure you're gonna love it. So that was the first part of the presentation, going through a presentation of Chemica, Graphic Art Mart, or our partnership, giving you some information about our range of heat transfer vinyl. And the next part is a training, trying to give you a little bit some advice on how to best work with heat transfer vinyl, give you some tips, some tricks, how to some ways to solve some technical issues, and we're gonna have some frequently asked questions. So, and that's basically all what you have to consider when working with heat transfer vinyl. There are three main things you have to consider, and it starts with the fabric you are working with. So that's the first thing you should consider, what I have to print on. The second part is which flex I have to use. I introduced to you the range, the Chemica range, and you see there's a lot of different references. So the question is, you should find the appropriate flex for your specific garment. And finally, the transfer settings. Transfer settings means we have by Chemica a lot of different references. Each product might have a different way of application. Some products will apply 160 degrees, some products will apply 120 degrees. So you just have to be careful to apply the right settings related to the right product. Basically, in terms of settings, what you just have to remember is working with heat transfer vinyl is just about three main things. It's all about time, temperature, and pressure. So this is the main thing you have to consider when working with heat transfer vinyl. It's basically always same. That's what you have to pay attention to, but that's the only thing what you will have to think about when you start working with a heat transfer vinyl. So time, temperature, and pressure, and you just have to get back to which which heat transfer vinyl am I using. So the first part is about you have to know your fabric and choose the appropriate flakes. So the one thing you don't want to start doing is to ruin or to start throwing away some fabrics because you've not been applying the right flakes to the right product. And there's a lot of different things what the customer can come up or can come to you with, saying, okay, I'd like to print specific sports garments, polyester sublimated, like the first picture I have on my presentation. But it can be umbrellas or balls. That's all possible to print using heat transfer vinyl. And that's one thing maybe some people forget is heat transfer vinyl is not only for plain cotton shirt. It really applies to a lot of different material and different fabrics. Basically, there's a lot more to heat transfer vinyl than some customers might think. And then one thing that customers might be asking for right now is to print on some stretchy fabric. I mean, this yoga pants. And again, when I was in Australia last year for the exhibition, I remember a lot of customers were actually confirming that the fabric they were now printing on were more and more technical. So that's why we are mentioning the really important first step is to consider your fabric. Oh, sorry. Back on the presentation. And I choose also two other examples here is I'm showing a kind of baby clothes on the bottom of the presentation and a bag. This is all possible, and that's something I'm going to mention how to do later on, because heat transfer vinyl, it also depends on the equipment you have and what you are working with. And this is all the things what you have to take into consideration. So you have to know what kind of material you are printing on. This is very, very important. You see, for example, the umbrella and all this kind of nylon fabric you might be working on, they might have a water repellent coating applied on the fabric. If you want your heat transfer vinyl to stick properly, you can use the Revolution, or you might have to use a specific nylon solution. That's the two options that you will have to do. But you cannot use normally a standard flex to print on this nylon product. So that's why we are mentioning first, really consider the fabric you have to print on. And my next advice is proceed in a test before starting production, mass production. Then you're going to make sure you're going to have or face no problem with your customer material. So that was the first point in terms of training. And then heat transfer vinyl is not only about the heat transfer vinyl. It's a whole process, and you have to be careful with the different steps because it can go wrong by every step. And I will especially mention the last step with the heat press, because that's really important, all what you can do using a heat press, and that you just should be careful that the heat press can influence your transfer. So it starts with the plotter. There is different things to consider when working with the plotter is, of course, you have to choose the appropriate blade. And this is again interesting. I mentioned to you beginning of the presentation, Chemica is having a lot of different solutions. I introduced some glitter. I introduced to you some flock. If you are not using those solutions right now and you want to get started, you just have to pay attention to the blade you'll be using. There is different kinds of blade available with the plotter. And depending on the product you are using, you might have to change the blade. More specifically, if the heat transfer vinyl you are using is, for example, a thicker material, like the glitter or the flock. So if you want to try those solutions, just remember you have to choose the appropriate blade. And after that, there is something that is a little bit more artwork related. It's the cutting speed and the pressure. This might be different depending if you have a very easy and simple design to cut or if you have a very intricate design. So this is the first thing, or the first part, considering the plotter. It will avoid also that you start throwing away some material, what I believe you don't really want to do. After that, with the print and cut machine or with the printer, it's a little bit same. You have to be careful with to choose the appropriate blade, and you have to set the pressure correctly. Same idea as before with the plotter. The best thing is to proceed in a test cut before getting started. If you're changing from one solution to the other, a quick test cut will help you make sure it's working fine and properly. But that's one thing. Interesting also is Graphic Armor, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, is having is selling the whole equipment. So from them you get the whole indication on how to best work with your material and how to best adjust and use the right setting. And the next part is about the heat press. So this is a very, very important tool when working with heat transfer vinyl. You can see next to my to the heat press symbol, there's a Cefa logo. You might be wondering what is Cefa. And here I just need to mention Chemica is a French manufacturer of heat transfer vinyl. But Chemica is part of a group of companies called FlexDev Group. So there is different companies within the group. And Cefa is a heat press manufacturer, a French heat press manufacturer for high quality standard heat presses. And they have the whole range from traditional automatic heat press to double plate fully automatic ones. So we do know what is a quality heat press and how it influences your work, because the heat press might influence the washability and the longevity of your transfer. So heat press is a very important tool you have. I'm going to mention this again later on. And there's two main aspects. It's temperature consistency and the platen fastness. So it's the two main things you have to keep in mind, because it influences how you're going to work and how your transfer will last. Again, I think the worst thing what can happen is your customers coming back to you saying his t-shirt doesn't last or doesn't behave good over time. And that's definitely not something you want to hear from your customers. So that's a very important topic, and the heat press is a real investment to do, and a good investment, because it also makes possible to print on different material. I'm going to have a little bit a focus on this again a little bit later. But here, very important is pay attention to the different equipment you are working with, not only the heat transfer vinyl. I believe your customers might be first blaming the vinyl, saying it has to do with the vinyl. It's not always the case. And it's very important to use the correct settings and to prepare the different tools correctly. Now, we're going to move to the tip and tricks part. Some might be very obvious, but for those of you who might be more getting started with heat transfer vinyl, some can be useful and will just help you save time. I hope so, at least. So the first advice I have for you is print out your design. I mean, when you start reading your material after it was cut through the plotter, just have somewhere next to you on your working table the print out of your design. If you look at this t-shirt, it's very difficult to remember which part you should weed away. So to have your printed out design next to you will help you weeding easily your material and remembering what exactly should be weeded away. It's particularly interesting with difficult design and intricate design. So that was the first one of the first tips and tricks I have for you. And the next one is something very interesting, is to weed your design or material hot. or warm. And what I mean here is, for example, to use the bottom plate of your heat press to read the material. This is specifically interesting or possible because of the new Revolution family. You won't be able to do it with a traditional hammer, but you can do it with the Revolution family. And what it means, it just makes the weeding much easier. You will save time by doing so. Just using a hot surface, you put your heat transfer vinyl on top of it, and it will help you for the weeding to make it much easier and much faster. So this is not always extremely recommended when you have very, very intricate design where you should be specifically careful. But for a design like the one I picture in my presentation, this is absolutely possible, and it will help you weed easier and faster. So this is one advice I can give, especially or related to the new Revolution family. The next tip is to pre-press your garment. This is a very important thing to do, especially when you are working with, for example, cotton shirt. And the reason is very simple. It's because it will help release the moisture. And this means your heat transfer vinyl will stick properly to your garment. So by preparing and pre-pressing your garment, I mean just to make a 5-second quick press to release the moisture, as I just mentioned, but also to get a wrinkle-free fabric. It's like if you are ironing your t-shirt, it will just help you get a real flat surface, and you will be able to avoid getting crease marks. So that's the two main reasons why we recommend to pre-press your garment before getting started. The next tip is about threading your garment on the lower plate of your heat press. And this is interesting or important because it will help you make sure you get a flat surface. You will make sure you get a flat surface, and this way you can make sure the pressure you will apply to your heat transfer vinyl and to your fabric is the correct one. Because this is one of the main reasons why a heat transfer vinyl will fail, is because you don't get the right pressure. So to make sure you get the right pressure, try to get a real flat surface, and by threading your shirt like I'm showing on the presentation, you can really make sure you get a flat surface. You get sure the washability will be guaranteed. So this is a very important thing to do when working with heat transfer vinyl. The next tip is something also related to the weeding. It's about using a weeding box around your artwork. As you see here, the person who has been doing this has been making a square around the cut or his artwork. And this is again something for helping you save time when weeding. It's much easier when you have to weed a full surface without having this to keep your transfer stable. Here, basically, you make the square around your logo and you weed this part at first. So the part around your logo, it will come very easily. So this is a trick that will help you save time by the weeding process. And then my next tip for you is something I mentioned already a little bit earlier. It's about getting the right tools. There's one thing I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation is heat transfer vinyl. As you see, there's a lot of different possibilities, a lot of different finishes. You can work on a lot of different fabrics: cotton, polyester, nylon, stretchy fabric, leggings. You can print basically on everything, not only t-shirt. You can also print on a bag. but they all have different shapes, that all have different challenges related to the print. And that's why you have different tools that can be used, and especially related to the heat press. I have been putting two different heat presses from Cefa on the presentation. The first one is a double plate. The one in the middle is a double plate heat press. Let's say you are going with a lot of production, and you really have to save time for your operator and do the production as fast as possible. This is a pedal-driven heat press. You push with your feet in the yellow box you can see at the back, and it will get started by itself. You can adjust the time and temperature, and you can just keep manufacturing or producing heat transfers. This is a heat press, for example, we have been delivering to some factories in Southeast Asia, in Bangladesh, for example. The next model I am introducing, just to give you some more ideas, because heat transfer vinyl, again, is not only about printing on t-shirt. We have a specific heat press, which is a 3-in-1 heat press by Cefa for printing on bolts, on caps, or on shoes. You can just adjust, you have different combinations, and you can build the combinations differently according to what you want to do. And you can make sure by having those presses that it will be very easy and convenient for you to print on all those kinds of items. Because I think one of the main things what you can do is to offer more solutions and more possibilities to your customers and bring more business for your shop. So this is two examples of the specific heat presses that can just bring more possibilities to your shop. And after that, below the heat presses, there is some accessories which are quite important to have or to consider. And I think the one in the middle, for example, is a very interesting one and very important one. Is you have heat presses where you can very easily change the bottom plate. You have the traditional bottom plate, but you can replace it using a very small one. For example, if you are working with baby clothes and you want to make sure you get, because you have the seams on top of the shirt or something like this, you want to make sure that you will get the right pressure. So here, very interesting is to change the lower plate through a smaller one. And this way you will make sure you get the right pressure on your baby clothes. So as you see, this is an example of a set of different lower plate you have available by Cefa. And with a quick release can be mounted, can be put very easily on your heat press. This is a very interesting, very interesting feature. You see also one of the plate, for example, for doing from your trousers, the legs and so on, making sure you will get the right pressure on the whole part of your fabric. So this is something that can help you do more, can help you save time, can make you also guarantee the quality of your transfer, that they will last long, that they will stick properly to your fabric. And just always the idea is for you to do more than what you are currently doing. And the next tool I've been mentioning here, for example, is the Nomex cover, which is something you can put on the bottom plate of your heat press. And this will just be or will just help you by threading your shirt on the lower plate, making it very easy and very convenient, saving a little bit time when trying to bring the fabric to your lower plate. So this is one of the main tips I have today, is just to look around what's available also in terms of equipment, because there's a lot of things to save time. There's a lot of things that should help you make more than just a traditional cotton plain shirt. So this is something really important. And the last important topic is about how to wash your product, because this is one of the main thing or main question you might have to answer from your customers. They might be asking you, okay, but how long will it last? How is the quality over time? That's maybe one thing they are considering when purchasing the shirt from you. And as I said before, when I was talking about the application, there's only three ways or three things to take care when printing heat transfer vinyl: is time, pressure, and temperature. If you do this correctly and you follow the instruction from the manufacturer, there is no reason using Chemica that the fabric doesn't last long, or the print on the fabric doesn't wash long. Benoît, tu me vois là?
Ah non, je peux pas me connecter, ça marche pas, c'est bien. Donc je t'écoute.
Ah, putain. Mark, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry, I was thinking I was offline.
No.
Okay, good, thank you. So here is about washability of your t-shirt, and what I was saying is just be careful how you wash it or how you recommend to your customer to wash the garment, because this is definitely the way you wash it is also the way it's gonna last over time. And that's maybe one question you have to check with your customers if they are facing some issues. So the first advice is to let it sit. It means wait about 24 hours after pressing onto your fabric before washing it. It will just stick better, take shape with the t-shirt. So just wait before washing it. The next thing is don't dry clean. This is harsh temperature are bad for the hot melt glue, so we should not make the hot melt glue face very high temperature again. That's not recommended. Next point is water. The water using for washing or the temperature used for washing vinyl or your t-shirt once they have a heat transfer vinyl applied to it. Water warms, try to keep it as cool as possible. Here, there's one thing important for you to remember is on the printing instructions of our products, there is always the best way to wash or what we recommend in terms of washing the fabric. So you can find the information on our instruction. Important also when you wash your fabric is to wash it inside out. It's important because this way you will avoid your print on your fabric is in contact with the outside part of your drum from your washing machine, or with, I don't know, if you're washing with some jeans and they have some buttons or something that can a little bit attack the print. By turning it inside out, you will protect the print. After that, one more advice is to use mild detergents. So no bleach, no softeners. That's all chemicals that can affect the glue. One more advice is to hang your t-shirt dry, and if you iron it, you better to turn it inside out also when ironing. So this is the different information to consider when washing your fabric, and that's something I think you should pass over to your customers when you are giving him the final product where you've been applying the customer's artwork. Just to mention that they have to be careful and respect some steps when washing the fabric. It's all about making the t-shirt last as it should, and basically if you make sure your customer is following this step, it will last very long. Now the next tips and trick is about how to store or how to keep your heat transfer vinyl. So basically up to 1 year storage is fine. You should just be careful to keep it in a dry room with room temperature. Doesn't like too hot and humid places. It might affect also the quality of the product. And if you're not using the heat transfer vinyls straight away, then it might be better to keep it in a sealed bag or in the box itself. It's just to make it last longer if you're not going to use it straight away. One more thing interesting to consider to keep in mind is to keep it away from sunlight. It will increase the longevity or make sure it will last long, or that you can keep it long, because as I said, too hot or humid places might be affecting the hot melt glue, and direct sunlight might also again influence the hot melt glue. So this is some advices on how to store your heat transfer vinyls. And this is now the kind of final part of the presentation, some FAQ. So this is some questions we get or we have collected over the year. Some of them may be very obvious for some of you. I don't know, depending on the experience you have, but just let's go through the different questions. So one of the things we've been asked is, should I wash my garment before printing on it? And actually, this is better to do so. And the reason is very simple. Some fabrics might receive a specific treatment for the logistic time or for the storage. It's a kind of protective coating, and it might influence how the print will adhere or stick to your, how the heat transfer vinyl will stick to the fabric. So if you wash your garment, then you might be able to, or you can clear it off from the fabric and make sure your heat transfer vinyl will stick properly. So this is something we've been mentioning in the presentation before, but that's something that is quite disappointing to see happening. It's just you are printing on a shirt and suddenly the color is not as you expected. You wanted to get a nice white print on your red shirt and you don't get it. This is because some fabrics are dye sublimated, and the inks or the sublimated inks will be reactivated with the heat and will bleed through your vinyl. So you won't get, even if you apply a white heat transfer vinyl at first, the color will change with the ink coming up. So this is why we have developed this SIR, so the Chemica range called SIR with subli-ink resistant solutions. This is because you need a specific solution with a blockout layer, which will avoid the inks to come up. One more advice on some fabrics: to use a low top heat transfer vinyl. So for example, the Revolution, it might help also in some cases to avoid this ink migration. But this is something you might be facing. So there's two solutions: or you reduce the temperature, or you use a specific product with a SIR with a blockout function. All details again can be easily found by Graphic Art Mart on the website or through their technical support. The next question is people asking, but the heat transfer vinyl printable material can work only with a solvent eco-solvent printer? And I remember, especially last year being in Australia, I think HP latex inks are quite popular. Some of you might have this kind of printer by them running. And Chemica is having a partnership with HP. And some of our printable material are also working with the HP latex ink printer. So it's not only for solvent eco-solvent printer, but Chemica does have solution for HP printer, HP latex inks printer. And something we are now looking into is the compatibility of our printable material with UV inks, UV printers. So we are, and the first testings we've done show that it should be possible to work with our product with UV printers, and that the washability can be also guaranteed. So that's something we are investigating. So to summarize, heat transfer vinyl printable material from Chemica, you have solutions for solvent eco-solvent printer, and you have solutions for HP latex printers. That's a very interesting question. I believe most of you are already using heat transfer vinyl, so you must, or you already have a heat press in your factory. But many customers are asking also if they can use heat transfer vinyl with a home iron. And some Chemica solutions can be used using a home iron. This is possible. The way you will work with the home iron is a little bit different. So we have some specific instruction available for doing so. You might have to apply a little bit longer or with a certain movement to guarantee a little bit of pressure. But this is more for people starting or doing this kind of hobby t-shirts. My recommendation is, of course, as soon as you get into selling the shirts, having a real customers asking for them, asking you to print their shirt, very important is to have a heat press, and I would even recommend a good quality heat press, which will help you doing your transfer. So some of our solutions can be used with home iron for the one who wants a little bit more of the hobby business or hobby activity. So we also have some questions, people asking, but I see some glue on my flex after peeling. Once you did the peel, there is some glue on the top of the PU. This is basically because you are using too much temperature. So just reduce a little bit the temperature. And the next related question is, there is glue around my heat transfer vinyl after peeling. So this is basically because you have you made a hot peel for a cold peel product. So here again, just follow the instruction from the manufacturer. Chemica is having a instruction related to all the different references Chemica has. Okay, for hot mark revolution. So just follow the step and do exactly what the manufacturer is saying. That's always the best way of working. Two questions related to print and cut media. The print media curls. So this is because you have to wait till the ink is completely dry. We do recommend, I think, 4 hours before starting or before removing or taping. So just take time to let the ink dry. And another questions we had was about white stains appearing on the media after printing. There's different possible origin. The first thing here is about the storage. So the best is, as I mentioned earlier, if you're not using the heat transfer vinyl directly, to keep it in the box, in the traditional box, to protect it from dust or all these kind of things that can come on top of the product. One advice also is to not load the rolls on the printer for too long or for several days, for example. So that's the two reasons why these white stains might be appearing. So just be careful how you store your printable material and how you load the rolls onto your printer. The next challenge we are very often facing is about customers saying we are having some scorching marks. So you see here, definitely you see the mark of the upper plate of your heat press. This is maybe happening even more and more, I would say, because the fabrics are getting more and more technical. It's no longer only very plain cotton shirt. So this is happening because of the temperature that is influencing the fabric. And the first and main advice is, of course, try to cool down your heat press. So again, the answer to this question is, or might be, that the Revolution is the right product, because the Revolution is working with only 120 degrees. So this is going to help you avoid those scorching marks. Try also to reduce a little bit the pressure if you really have this too big square on your t-shirt related to the pressure. And the final advice for avoiding these scorching marks is about using a Teflon sheet on top of your t-shirt when doing the transfer, because it will be one more additional layer between the heat transfer vinyl and between your fabric and the upper plate, the hot plate from your heat press. So just remember to use a silicone or a Teflon sheet on top of your fabric to have something between the fabric and the upper plate of your heat press. So again, for scorching marks, cool down your heat press the best you can, and use the Revolution. That is one of the best choice, and use a Teflon sheet to protect your fabric. This is something we are being asked quite often. Is okay, Chemica is saying to use 150 grad for transferring my t-shirt. Should I not use more temperature and it will stick better? This is not the case, and this is not something you should do. you should just follow the manufacturer instructions, because the hot melt glue would eventually kind of burn off together with the more temperature. The adhesive will get affected and damaged, and you won't get the right, you won't be able to get the hot melt glue to work as it should. So this is actually even a way that you can get some problems during the application. So just follow the manufacturer instructions. That's just the best what you can do, and more temperature doesn't mean it will stick better. This is not the case. This is something also customers are asking us. It's sometimes to make it stick better, I will press again. It means I will press one time to have the heat transfer vinyl on my fabric. Once it's applied, I will do a repress to fix it completely. So again, this is not something Chemica is recommending, and we don't ask you to do it. For us, one time press is enough. You fix the transfer, the hot melt glue is getting bounded to the fabric, and it's enough. No need to do more. And this is a little bit the same. It can influence the look of your artwork and the feel of it. So basically, it is not recommended to repress. And that was the training part for today's presentation. So again, a short thank you before maybe some questions are coming. And the last thing I would like to mention is Chemica HK is having a Facebook page where you can follow us. And we are posting, or we are doing some videos where you can see some tips and tricks and some good ways to work with our products. So it might be good for you to just follow us and get some interesting and some more information live looking at the video. And that's it for me for now.
Thanks, Nicholas. We're obviously just out of time now. We haven't got any more questions, so I just wanted to thank you for your time and running through the presentation today, and we will look to do another session shortly. But thanks everyone for attending, and we will be in touch soon. Thank you.